They understood what they were doing. They were going right back into the heart of danger. They were going right back into the persecution. They were going right back into the potential stoning and death and everything. They were facing death with everything that they had, and they still went for other people. They were facing everything that could possibly be thrown at them, and they did not go back for revenge. They went back for strategy, the long game, and understanding how healthy they needed these churches to be. Paul survived the stoning, and the next day, he and Barnabas pressed on to another city called Derbe, undeterred. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I am not a guy, and I know this is gonna come to a shock for most people, but I am not a guy who can get stoned and left for dead and just on the other side of the city gate, and then the next day I'm gonna get up and keep going. That is the point to me where I quit. I don't quit very easy, but that's one of those things that would be like, all right, Jason's done. I'm gonna pass this off to my buddy Barnabas, and I'm out. Like, I would take all my paid time off at that point. I would take all of my sick days. I would be like chilling in a corner or somebody's house or trying to hide, or maybe just like go ahead and put me under. I've stoned to death. That was their intention. And he gets up and he continues the work. He gets up, dusts himself off, and continues the work. And I can imagine being Barnabas, the guy that's been beside him, the guy that we know is this extreme encourager. And Barnabas is just like, okay, I guess we'll just go. And he's probably trying to tilt Paul towards going back home, but this is what they do. They go right back in to where they were to face potential oppression and death again. Verse 21 of chapter 14 tells us that they return back to the places that tried to kill them. We're going to pick it up in chapter 14, verse 21. Then they returned to Lystra, Iconium, and Antioch. Verse 22, strengthening the disciples and encouraging them to remain true to their faith. We must go through many hardships to enter the kingdom of God, they said. Paul and Barnabas appointed elders for them in each church, and with prayer and fasting committed them to the Lord, in whom they had put their trust. Now, I don't know about you guys, but again, I am not picking myself up off the dirt after people had thrown rocks at me to kill me. And then I'm for sure not gonna double back and go, hey, instead of going home, Barnabas, we're gonna go back. This is the first time in any of Paul's journeys that we have in the New Testament that he goes back. He goes back to a church that he had planted. He goes back to a city where he'd been persecuted. It's the first time they go back. Verse 21b, then they returned to Lystra, Iconium, and Antioch. And we're gonna put up the map that we used last week. The orange is the journey that Clint went over last week. The green is what is happening in the text that we were looking at today. So they go from Lystra to Derbe to preach there, and then they go back to Lystra, to Iconium, and Pisidian Antioch. They go backwards. Paul and Barnabas retraced their steps back through Lystra, back through the same streets and the same gates where they were stoned, back to Iconium, back to Antioch. Every place that had threatened them now is revisited, and it's not revisited for revenge. It is revisited for strengthening. This moment is significant because it sets a pattern for all of Paul's future journeys. So he's gonna make us a habit to go back to the churches that he starts. He is gonna make it a plan and a part of his strategy, and this is what he is going to do. Whether he goes there to visit them or he sends them a letter or some sort of combination of the both, Paul and Barnabas and other people that he travels with in future missionary journeys continue to use this as a strategic passage. It's about nurturing. It's about stabilizing. It's about reaching into the community that is built there in those cities and strengthening those disciples for the journey ahead. You know, the more I thought about it this week, two things really popped to my brain with this. We've got to remember that this is the first set of churches. It's the first set of churches outside Jerusalem, for sure. It's the first set of churches that, honestly, like we know what church is, right? We got 2,000 years of churches, right? And we all have our own church experience, right? Even if you're new to church, like this is the first time you've walked into church, you probably expected this to happen, right? You probably knew that somebody would talk to you for a little while, probably sing some music, all of those things. You probably expected it. These people that they catalyzed and started churches with in these cities, they left them. And I can imagine those people going, oh, okay, what's next? Like they didn't pass out Bibles. Like they didn't have screens. They didn't have people staying there to teach them. And so Paul and Barnabas knew that this would be a problem. They knew that they needed to do something about it, so they went back to do something about it. And the more I've thought about it this week, the more incredible of a mature move this is for Paul and Barnabas. They understood what they were doing. They were going right back into the heart of danger. They were going right back into the persecution. They were going right back into the potential stoning and death and everything. They were facing death with everything that they had. And they still went for other people. They were facing everything that could possibly be thrown at them. And they did not go back for revenge. They went back for strategy, the long game, and understanding how healthy they needed these churches to be.